I'm going to tell you this the way I'd tell it to a friend over coffee. Not like I'm trying to win a book award. Because when you live through something like this, you don't remember it in cinematic lines. You remember it in the ugly, practical details. Where you were standing. What your stomach did. What you said out loud even though no one was there to hear you. My name is Ethan Parker. I'm 38. I live outside Columbus, Ohio, in that slice of suburb where the lawns look similar and the neighbors wave, and everybody pretends they're not quietly watching your life like it's a low-budget reality show. I work in operations for a mid-sized logistics company. Nothing glamorous. Mostly problem-solving and putting out fires. My wife, Claire, is 36. She works in marketing for a medical equipment supplier downtown. We'd been married 11 years. No kids. That wasn't because we hated the idea. It was a choice we kept revisiting like a tab left open in a browser. Never fully closed. Always there in the background. Sometimes ignored for months. Sometimes the only thing you can see. We had what I used to call a steady marriage. Not loud. Not dramatic. The kind that makes your friends say, "You two are solid." The way people say, "That bridge looks sturdy," right before a storm. We did the normal things. We paid bills. We watched a show at night. We went to her dad's house for holidays. We hosted a barbecue twice a summer. If you'd asked me then, I would have told you we weren't perfect. But we were fine. Fine is a dangerous word. It's what people say when the cracks are there, but everyone's still stepping over them. The thing that broke it didn't happen in a bedroom. It didn't happen in some dramatic restaurant scene. It happened on a Tuesday morning in late January 2026. At 6:12 a.m. In our kitchen. My coffee was half made. My phone was charging against the backsplash. I'd woken up early because I had to drive to the warehouse for a surprise audit. Claire was still asleep upstairs. The house was quiet in that way that makes you feel like you're the only person alive. I reached for my phone to check the weather. The first notification on my lock screen wasn't the weather. It was a calendar alert from Claire's shared family calendar. The one we'd used for years to coordinate travel, birthdays, vet appointments, random life things. The alert said. Dinner, 7:30, no phones. I stared at it longer than a normal person would. It wasn't the dinner part that hit me. Claire did dinners with coworkers sometimes. It was the R. We didn't have an R. We had friends. Megan. Tyler. Jen. Chris. We had family. My sister Abby. Her dad Tom. No one in our world was just a single letter. And that "no phones" note didn't feel casual. It felt like a rule you write down when you've had to say it out loud before. Like it was routine. Like this wasn't a one-off. My brain tried to protect me. So it offered a few lies I could live with for another hour. Maybe R stood for reservation. Maybe she put a work reminder on the wrong calendar. Maybe it was nothing. And then I did the dumbest thing you can do when you're trying to avoid reality. I unlocked her iPad. Claire's iPad was on the counter because she'd been scrolling in bed the night before. Half asleep. Looking at Pinterest nonsense about kitchen organization hacks. The iPad wasn't locked with Face ID. She hated how it didn't recognize her in the dark. The screen lit up. I didn't even have to search. Messages were open. The last conversation wasn't with her mom. Or her best friend. Or a group chat. It was with a contact saved as R. I'm not proud of what I did next. But I'm also not going to pretend I'm some saint. I opened it. The most recent message from R was from the night before. Same place. You okay? Claire replied. Yeah. Just tired. Tomorrow will be better. Miss you. There's a moment right there where your whole life splits into before and after. And you don't get to vote on it. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the iPad. I just stood there in my kitchen. The coffee machine whining like it didn't care. And I felt something in me go cold and organized. Like a filing cabinet sliding shut. I scrolled up. I didn't need to go far. There were months of messages. Not explicit. Not graphic. Which somehow made it worse. Because it wasn't lust talking. It was intimacy. It was routine. It was a second relationship built with the same daily bricks she'd been using on our life. Good mornings. Inside jokes. I can't wait. I wish you were here. I hate going back to normal after I'm with you. And then I found the line that turned my stomach into ice. With you I feel alive. With Ethan I feel safe. It didn't read like a mistake. It read like a verdict. Like I was the place you park the car when you're done driving. The stable thing you use while you reach for something else with your real hands. I remember looking up the stairs. Hearing nothing. She was asleep. She was upstairs sleeping while my entire reality was changing downstairs. That's what betrayal feels like at first. Not rage. Just a surreal mismatch between how calm the world looks and how violent your thoughts are inside your skull. I didn't confront her that morning. I didn't trust myself not to say something I couldn't take back. So I documented. I photographed the calendar entry. I saved enough messages to prove I hadn't imagined it. Then I put the iPad back exactly where it was. Like I was preserving a crime scene. Claire came downstairs 20 minutes later. Sweatpants. Messy hair. She kissed me on the cheek. Asked if I wanted eggs this weekend. I nodded. I drove to work feeling like a man walking around with a knife in his gut. Pretending it was just a cramp. In the warehouse parking lot, hands on the steering wheel, I realized something simple and terrifying. My marriage wasn't what I thought it was. And it hadn't been for a long time. The first week after you find out something like that is not dramatic in the way people imagine. It's mostly you learning how many ordinary moments can happen while you're quietly bleeding inside. Claire made dinner. She asked about my day. She laughed at a video our neighbor posted in the group chat. She kissed me on the cheek in passing like she always did. Every time she touched me, I felt this strange double sensation. Part of me wanted to grab on because I still loved her. Another part of me wanted to step back, like her skin was hot. The lie doesn't just hurt because of what it is. It hurts because it contaminates everything around it. You start replaying normal conversations like they're security footage. You start thinking about nights on the couch when she was tired and went to bed early. You start remembering weekends where she seemed unusually cheerful for no reason. You realize the reason existed. It just didn't include you. I started noticing patterns I'd ignored before. The way she angled her phone away from me. The way she suddenly became protective of girls' nights that used to be casual. The way she'd start small arguments over nothing. Laundry. Dishes. Whether I ordered the right thing from the grocery app. At first I thought she was just stressed. Then it hit me, late and sharp. Those arguments weren't about dishes. They were about justification. People don't like seeing themselves as villains. So they build stories where they're the main character making a hard choice. If I was emotionally unavailable, then she wasn't cheating. She was finding herself. If we were growing apart, then she wasn't lying. She was protecting what's left. The language changes. The goal doesn't. Reduce guilt by upgrading the narrative. I kept my mouth shut, and it made me feel like I was living with a stranger who happened to know my favorite cereal. I'm not proud of how controlled I became. I checked phone bills. I checked our bank statements. I looked for charges that didn't make sense. I wasn't trying to catch her. I already knew. I was trying to map the shape of the lie so I could understand what I was standing in. And the more I looked, the worse it got. Not in a tabloid way. In a structural way. There were hotel charges I'd missed because they were small and mixed into business travel. There were dinner bills for places she said she went with coworkers. There was a weekend marketing retreat last spring where the schedule only covered one day, but the hotel was booked for 2 nights. There were missing blocks of time that suddenly made sense. Like puzzle pieces that had been face down. I found out, was Ryan Caldwell. I didn't need a private investigator. She'd been sloppy. When you keep a secret long enough, you start thinking it's safe. His last name was in an email confirmation she'd forwarded to herself and forgotten to delete. Ryan Caldwell. 41. Commercial real estate. Divorced. No kids. The type of guy who posts hustle quotes and thinks that counts as depth. I looked him up. Of course I did. Pride is a luxury you don't have when your life feels unstable. His LinkedIn was full of corporate optimism and, excited to announce, posts. His Instagram was curated. Restaurants. Golf. A dog he probably saw twice a week. Photos with women. None tagged. It told me what I needed to know. Ryan didn't live in Claire's world. He lived in a world where relationships are accessories. And yet somehow, he was the place she went to feel alive. Meanwhile, inside my house, Claire started acting lighter. Happier. Like a person with a secret battery pack. I hated that I noticed. Because it made me feel petty. But it wasn't pettiness. It was reality. She'd come home with that lift in her voice. That extra patience. That almost playful energy. And my brain would immediately ask the question I didn't want to think. Was he with you today? Is that why you can smile now? There's a special kind of cruelty in being treated well by someone who is betraying you. You want the betrayal to come with coldness. Distance. A clear villain. Real life doesn't do that. Real life is someone making you eggs on Sunday and lying to your face on Monday. She started pushing a new narrative too. Soft. Careful. Rehearsed. I feel like we're roommates. Do you ever think we got too comfortable? I don't want to wake up 10 years from now and feel like I wasted my chance to be happy. At first, the old part of me almost leaned in. Comfort is a real problem in long marriages. Then I remembered the line. With you I feel alive. She wasn't discovering an issue. She was importing justification into the marriage like it was a product she needed to sell. One Friday night, she told me she had a last-minute client dinner. She was already dressed. Like she'd been waiting for the excuse. I asked, casually, where? She didn't hesitate. She named a restaurant we'd been to together. She left at 6:45. 10 minutes later, I did something that still makes my skin crawl. I drove to the restaurant and parked across the street. Not because I wanted a scene. Because I needed to know if I was losing my mind. I sat there watching couples go in and out. After 30 minutes, Claire's car passed through the intersection. She didn't turn in. She didn't slow down. She drove straight through and kept going. In that moment, it stopped being, my wife is having an affair. It became something worse. My wife can look me in the eye and lie with zero effort. That's the kind of betrayal that rewires how you trust reality itself. I went home. I didn't say a word. I sat on the couch alone, the TV on but muted. And I realized I couldn't live like this. If I kept being a surveillance camera in my own house, I was going to disappear. Not dramatically. Quietly. I decided I would not confront her until I knew exactly what I wanted to do next. I wasn't going to hand her a scene. I wasn't going to let her rewrite the truth in real time. If the truth came out, it would come out on my terms. I didn't tell my friends right away. There's a strange shame that comes with betrayal, even when you did nothing wrong. Like you're standing in front of people holding a broken thing you promised would never break. I also didn't tell my parents. My mom would have gone nuclear and turned it into her pain. I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to manage anyone else's reaction. So I carried it alone. And carrying it alone started changing me. I'd zone out at work. I'd come home already clenched, like my body was bracing before my mind caught up. I'd look at Claire across the dinner table and wonder how many versions of her were sitting there. Eventually, it got too heavy. So I told my sister, Abby. Abby is 40. Blunt. The kind of person who will bring you groceries and also tell you you're being stupid if you're being stupid. I asked her to meet me for lunch on a Sunday. I planned to keep it vague. She took one look at me and said, "What happened?" I told her. Not every detail. But enough. Messages. Calendar entry. A name. Abby didn't go dramatic. She didn't tell me to burn everything down. She asked practical questions. How long do you think it's been going on? Do you have proof? Are you financially safe? What do you want? That last question hit harder than I expected. Because I realized I didn't know. I wanted Claire to be the person I married. I wanted the last 11 years to be real. I wanted an apology that could rewind time. But I also wanted to stop feeling stupid in my own house. Abby said the most useful thing anyone said to me during that whole time. Don't confront without a plan. If you confront, you react. If you plan, you stay in control. Then she added something quieter. She's had time to prepare. You haven't. You deserve that time too. So I scheduled a consultation with a family law attorney. I went alone. I sat in a beige office that smelled like coffee and paper and talked about my marriage like it was a contract dispute. The attorney's name was Janet. Janet didn't care about the emotional details. She cared about facts. Assets. Income. House. Retirement accounts. Timelines. She explained what divorce could look like in Ohio. What I should document. What I absolutely should not do. I left that office feeling strange. Not happy. But calm. Like I'd been drowning and someone had pointed to shore. Around that time, Claire mentioned a 2-day conference in Chicago. She said it casually. While folding laundry. Later that night, I looked up the conference schedule. It was a 1-day event. Optional networking brunch the next morning. Claire had booked 3 nights. I didn't confront her. I documented it. I saved the conference page. I screenshot the hotel confirmation. I wrote the dates down. Because if you don't anchor yourself to facts, your brain starts bargaining with lies. During that same stretch, Claire started planting the seeds of her story. She'd say things like, "I feel stuck." Or, "I don't feel excited about life anymore." She'd look at me softly and say, "I don't want to wake up 10 years from now and feel like I wasted my chance to be happy." It sounded thoughtful. Mature. But I could hear the rehearsal. She wasn't discovering a problem. She was preparing justification. No marriage is perfect. That's what made it dangerous. She wasn't inventing problems. She was inflating normal wear and tear into permission. I started doing quiet, protective things. Not vindictive. Protective. I opened a separate account and redirected my paycheck there. I kept paying joint bills responsibly. I copied important documents. Titles. Tax records. Insurance papers. I updated passwords. Those actions didn't make me feel like a villain. They made me feel like I could breathe. Because helplessness is what really crushes you. The closest I came to losing control was the night before she left for Chicago. We were in the living room. A show played in the background. She was packing her suitcase. She said, almost casually, "When I get back, I think we should talk about us. About where we're headed." She said it like she was being brave. I nodded. Inside my chest, the last piece of denial let go. She wasn't going to confess. She was going to come back and deliver a story. A clean version where she gets to be honest and I'm supposed to be grateful for it. I wasn't playing that role. Claire left Thursday morning. She kissed me goodbye. She told me she loved me. I watched her walk to her car with a suitcase and felt like I was watching someone exit a building that was about to collapse. After she left, the house was silent. Not peaceful. Just empty. I didn't follow her. I didn't call her. I prepared. That afternoon, Claire texted me. Made it. Hotel is nice. Busy schedule. Miss you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied with something neutral. Have a good conference. Be safe. That night, I ate dinner alone at the table we'd shared for years. And it hit me. I was grieving someone who was still alive. The next morning, Abby called me. Her voice was tight. I don't want to make you crazy, she said, but Megan saw Claire post a story last night. Just a drink. No location. Then she paused. Ryan posted too. She sent me the screenshot. Rooftop bar. City lights. A hand holding a glass. And in the reflection, you could see her face. Claire's face. It wasn't explicit. It wasn't sexual. It was intimate. Casual. Like they belonged there together. Seeing her in someone else's post did something to me. It took the affair out of my private nightmare and put it into the real world. Other people's phones. Other people's awareness. I knew then I had a choice. Wait. Let her come home. Listen to the speech she'd been rehearsing. Or take control. I chose control. I didn't text her. I didn't send the screenshot. I called Janet and told her I was ready to separate. Janet asked when Claire would return. Sunday. She said, then you prepare your home and your boundaries. You do not get pulled into an argument. You get the truth or you get silence. Either way, you keep to your plan. That Saturday, I didn't pace. I didn't rehearse speeches in the mirror. I cleaned the living room like I was preparing for guests. Vacuumed. Straightened the coffee table. Moved things just enough to make the room feel neutral. Then I laid everything out. Printed screenshots. Dates. Hotel confirmations. Calendar entries. Dinner receipts that didn't match the restaurants she named. I stacked them neatly. In order. Not to humiliate her. To remove every exit route. Because the only thing more exhausting than betrayal is watching someone try to talk their way out of reality. I packed a bag and put it in my truck. Not because I planned to leave. Because I wanted to know I could. I moved important documents and a few sentimental things into my office and locked it. I wasn't planning revenge. I was building a boundary. Sunday afternoon, Claire came home. She walked in smiling. Suitcase rolling behind her. Talking about traffic. About how tired she was. For half a second, my body reached for the old reflex. Hug her. Ask about her trip. Pretend. Denial always offers you short-term comfort in exchange for long-term decay. I didn't hug her. She noticed immediately. She set the suitcase down slowly. What's wrong? We need to talk. We sat in the living room. Two people on a couch. A coffee table between us like a border. No yelling. No pacing. Just the heavy calm of something ending. I said, I know about Ryan. She didn't ask who. Her face flickered. Shock. Calculation. Then resignation. Like someone who knew this day was coming and had been hoping to control when. She started, Ethan, I. Then stopped. I nodded toward the coffee table. I've known for almost a month, I said. Every client dinner. Every sudden work trip. Every lie you said like it was nothing. Her eyes moved over the papers. Not reading at first. Scanning. Looking for an angle. She cried. Quietly at first. Then harder. She said she was lonely. That she felt invisible. That Ryan made her feel seen. She said it started small. That she tried to stop. That she loved me. That she hated herself. I didn't interrupt. Then I asked one question. Were you ever going to tell me? She stared at the floor. Silence. That silence was the answer. You didn't have an affair, I said. You built a second life. And you used me as the storage unit. She flinched. She started bargaining. Therapy. Quitting her job. Blocking him. Changing everything. Anything. You didn't need anything to stay loyal, I said. If you were that lonely, you would have talked to me before you talked to him. That landed. I could see it in her face. Then she said something that told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing the life. The house. The stability. The safety. That's what safe meant. I told her we were separating. I said it calmly. Calm is what made it real. I told her she could stay with Megan. Or with her dad. She begged. Not with big speeches. With practical desperation. Fear. I watched her try to hold on to the version of me that would fix things. But that version was already gone. She packed a suitcase. She walked to the door like she was moving through water. She turned once. Crying. I didn't move. Because I wasn't her refuge anymore. When the door closed, the house felt enormous. Quiet. Empty. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. But the hollow was honest. The days after she left didn't feel dramatic. They felt quiet in a way that made every sound too loud. The refrigerator hum. The ticking of the clock. The absence of her footsteps upstairs. People imagine separation as this explosive thing. Yelling. Crying. Doors slamming. But most of it is paperwork and silence. And learning how many ordinary moments can exist while you're grieving. Claire texted the first night. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Please talk to me. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to punish her. Because I knew myself. If I answered, I'd get pulled into explaining. Into debating feelings. Into emotional loops where she would feel like she was trying, and I would slowly bleed out just to keep the peace. I needed distance. Not revenge. The next morning, I woke up early out of habit. I stood in the kitchen, poured coffee, and realized something strange. The anxiety wasn't there. The pain was. The sadness was. But the constant tension, the background noise I hadn't even realized I was living with, was gone. For weeks, my nervous system had been braced like something bad was about to happen. Now it already had. And in a quiet, uncomfortable way, that was a relief. Practical things moved fast. I met with Janet again. We started the separation paperwork. We split finances. Set boundaries for communication. She told me something important. People think divorce is about emotion, she said. It's mostly about structure. And she was right. Schedules. Accounts. Assets. Deadlines. It felt cold. But it also felt stabilizing. Because structure is what betrayal destroys first. Claire kept reaching out. Long messages. Apologies. Explanations. She wanted to explain how lonely she felt. How unseen. How she didn't plan for it to go this far. And maybe that was all true. But truth without accountability is just noise. I kept responses minimal. Logistics only. Anything emotional went through lawyers or silence. That wasn't cruelty. That was self-preservation. Friends started to find out. Not because I told them in a dramatic announcement. Because life leaks. Someone noticed Claire wasn't around. Someone asked a question. Someone told someone else. Some people reached out with real support. Others were awkward. A few wanted details, like it was entertainment. I learned quickly who to keep close. The ones who didn't ask for the story. Who didn't need me to perform my pain. They brought food. Sat quietly. Texted things like, "You ate today." That mattered more than speeches. Abby showed up the most. She brought groceries. She cleaned my kitchen without asking. She made dark jokes when the silence got heavy. She also reminded me of things I didn't want to hear. "That version of your marriage is gone," she said one night. "You don't get it back by wishing harder." She was right. Claire asked to meet about a month later. Public place. Daytime. I agreed. Not because I owed her closure. Because I didn't want unfinished emotional business living in my head. We met at a coffee shop near downtown. The music was too loud. The tables too close. Claire looked different. Smaller. Less certain. The confidence she'd borrowed from secrecy was gone. Reality has no flattering lighting. She told me she'd ended it with Ryan. Once she was, actually free, he didn't want anything real. He wanted what they had before. Stolen time. No responsibility. No consequences. That detail didn't make me happy. It didn't feel like justice. It just made the whole thing feel pointless. She gambled her marriage on a man who only wanted her while she belonged to someone else. She asked if there was any chance for us. That's the moment people want a clean answer for. Yes or no. Black or white. But real life doesn't work like that. Love doesn't disappear on command. I still loved parts of her. Memories. Habits. The person I thought she was. But love isn't the only currency in a marriage. Trust is the infrastructure. Without it, love becomes expensive. It drains you. I told her the truth. I don't know, I said. And I'm not promising anything. She asked what she could do. And I said the only honest thing. You can live with what you did without asking me to carry it. She cried quietly. We didn't have a dramatic goodbye. I left first. I sat in my car afterward with my hands on the steering wheel, just like the morning this started. And I realized something uncomfortable. Even when you do the right thing, it still hurts. Right doesn't mean painless. It means clean. The divorce process took months. Slow. Boring. Emotionally draining. Paperwork. Waiting. Lists. Signatures. It's surreal to dismantle a marriage legally while still remembering the day you proposed. The first apartment. The vacations. The stupid jokes no one else would understand. The law treats it like a transaction. Your heart treats it like an amputation. During that time, I changed the house in small ways. Repainted a room. Moved furniture. Replaced bedding. Not to start over. To stop living inside echoes. I started running. Badly at first. Then less badly. I started lifting again. I cut back on drinking. I didn't trust alcohol with my mental state. I didn't want to numb out and wake up as a weaker version of myself. Some nights I ate cereal for dinner and counted it as a win. Some nights I sat in silence and let the sadness move through me. Grief isn't a monster you slay. It's whether you learn to stand in. The divorce finalized early January 2027. One day you're married for over a decade. Then you sign papers. And you're not. No courtroom speech. No dramatic ending. Just a quiet finality that hits later. Claire tried to keep a thread between us after. Apologies. Updates. Can we talk? Do you ever miss me? She wanted closure like it was something you receive. Not something you build. I didn't give her drama. I didn't give her rage. I gave her the one consequence she couldn't negotiate. She lost access to me. Not because I became cruel. Because I became clear. I stopped being the safe place you return to after someone else makes you feel alive. I stopped being the backup plan. I stopped being the man who would swallow his dignity to keep the house quiet. People ask if I won. I don't know what winning looks like here. But I know what it feels like. It feels like waking up without checking calendars. It feels like eating dinner without wondering who you're competing with. It feels like not arguing with reality. It feels like knowing the person sitting across from you is actually in the same world you are. And the last thing I understood, quietly, almost with relief, was this. She didn't take my future from me. She only took the version of me who would have stayed no matter what. The rest, the part that matters, I kept. I didn't ruin her life. I didn't chase revenge. I didn't broadcast her choices to the world. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences of them. And if you've never been betrayed, that might sound cold. But if you have, you understand. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to forgive fast or fight hard. Sometimes it's to turn on the lights, tell the truth, and walk out of a story that was written without your consent. And once you do, you realize something almost embarrassing in its simplicity. The peace you get back is worth more than the love you were trying to save alone. Thanks for watching. If this story stayed with you, you know what to do. Subscribe.